Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen D. Kelly, and this is the Stephen D. Kelly Show, and we are TruthCat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. It's October 3rd, 2024. It is now 6 p.m. here in sunny Southern California. All right, welcome to the show. I don't have a title for you, but it's one of those things, I'm going to probably do a little bit of review. I went into the group, of course, and said, hey, guys, what would you like me to talk about tonight? And quite a few of you did give a few suggestions. And I'm just coming off of an interview here that I did with the guys over there at the, the Tinfoil Hat crew over there. Anyway, and we have a lot of activity now because a lot of those people have joined our group, and also there's interaction now between their chat room, their conspiracy chat, and the Occupy the Getty / Stephen Kelly chat, which is all fun. But I do have to address some of those things because I know a lot of the people from the Tinfoil Hat crew are not used to how I operate. I know I'm pretty stringent, and things happen. And of course, I do have a admin that is probably harsher than I am. So anyway, things happen. But I do want to welcome all those people. And if you're a first-time listener, I do want to welcome you also. Before I really try to dive in and answer any questions and do anything, I want to just kind of review what's going on here in the world, because we truly are. I know I've been inputting shows into Rumble here, and I look at shows from back in 2021 where I'm saying, end of the war, end of the world, World War III, almost here, preparing for war. So I'm talking about this quite a bit, and I know I'm always saying, well, doom and gloom, this is going to be happening, and it seems like it just doesn't happen, at least not as quick as you would think. Well, I got to focus, first of all, on what's going on in Israel. And Ukraine aside, and our lack of weapons aside, the biggest thing that happened, of course, is that Israel did massive terrorism and maimed a lot of people with exploding pagers and cell phones and walkie-talkies and battery-operated equipment. And on top of that, they keep assassinating, and they've one by one basically killed off everybody in the top leadership positions of Hezbollah. And then once those people get replaced, they kill those people. In fact, the most senior guy that they just killed, Nasrallah, had actually brokered a ceasefire with Israel. It was a 21-day ceasefire. He actually had agreed to a ceasefire with Israel and the United States for 21 days. And as soon as he agreed to it, he basically came out of hiding because he thought, well, we got a ceasefire in effect. No, they bombed his ass and killed him. Anyway, needless to say, people would think, well, is Hezbollah defeated? I don't think so. All right, what's really going on? What's really going on is the thing with Iran. Now, first of all, Israel, of course, has gone all out war with tiny little enclave known as Gaza, has completely leveled it into rubble, and yet is still fighting Hamas. Now, even with that one thing there, that one battle, all the 5,000-pound bombs, etc., the stuff that we've had to give them, hasn't been enough. They've dropped more bombs in Gaza than I believe were dropped in the entirety of World War II. Practically, it's just a ridiculous amount of money. It's more than Hiroshima practically. But the thing is that that's not good enough. If they cannot have a larger war, if they cannot drag the United States in, if they cannot go after Lebanon, if they cannot go after Iran, if they cannot go after Damascus and Baghdad and everybody else all at the same time, they're not happy, and this is what they're trying to do. So, Iran, Well, basically, Iran launched a serious missile attack on Israel. It just took place like 2 days ago. And the story is that they launched 180 ballistic missiles. These are missiles that have a high trajectory. They travel in a somewhat parabolic pattern, but because they are fueled and powered, this is more of a ballistic. This is it's a rocket. It travels in an ellipse as opposed to a parabola. It travels in an ellipse. Anyway, bottom line, 80% of those missiles got through to their targets into Israel. Now, again, this is only 180 missiles, but these are large missiles, and these are guided missiles, and they are very destructive. Now, what did they target? They targeted 5 air bases, and Israel, of course, says that these air bases were still functional afterwards, even though the Iranians claim to have destroyed at least 20 F-35 fighters, state-of-the-art Israeli, American-made fighters. Good possibility that did actually happen. But they also leveled the Hamas, not the Hamas, but the Mossad headquarters. The evil Mossad. You know, I'll tell you, a lot of people have been saying there was a disturbance in the force. And they're wondering, what happened? What happened? Well, Mossad headquarters got leveled. Now, obviously, there's a bunker underneath it, and I'm sure that they were able to hide down there. But the building on the surface was destroyed. This is a very significant thing from the standpoint of all the evil and wickedness that is emanating from that one institution. 9/11, Kennedy assassination, on and on. Anyway, so Israel, of course, vows to respond, and Kamala Harris, the actual acting president of the United States, is impotent to do anything. It reminds me so much of when the United States had a female ambassador to Iraq, and right before Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, he had to deal with this woman. So I don't expect that there's a whole lot of respect that's being given. And obviously, there is no respect at all for what's left of Joe Biden. But bottom line is that there's absolutely no power in the United States. There's certainly a power vacuum in the White House. And the only people that are doing anything are people like the National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, and possibly people on the sidelines like Hillary Clinton and Obama. Otherwise, it's on autopilot, and people like Netanyahu are going to do whatever they want. The United States will have no choice but to expand. Now, Netanyahu had important meetings with Putin. At least he tried to have meetings with Putin. I don't know if he was successful, but why is that so? Well, the point is that just like the missiles that are fired by the Ukrainians into Russia, the HIMARS and the ATACMS and the Storm Shadows and Scouts and the various other different missiles that are used, including systems that are glide bombs using GPS. All of this requires American technology, and the HIMARS, etc., multiple launch rocket systems, precision rockets, all require American personnel to target those systems. So that should tell you right away. It also requires Russian personnel to help the Iranians target Israel, because the Iranians don't have satellites. They don't have a GPS system. The Russians have their own GPS type system, and they have their own satellites, and they are now providing targeting data. Now, Russia, of course, has the greatest anti-air defense system in the world, and I'm sure Israel had been considered to have one of the greatest air defense systems in the world, and yet 80% of 80 ballistic missiles got through. Now, they say that some of these missiles were actually hypersonic. It's alleged, but there's no real proof of that. We don't know for sure. But either way, 80% was out of 180, and they devastated 5 or more strategic targets. Now, I know a lot of people in the cities, including people in Tel Aviv, were scared shitless, but obviously the Mossad headquarters is in the middle of Tel Aviv. These air bases, these Air Force installations, I don't know how many civilians are around those things, but I'll tell you, probably more civilians were injured by rockets that were shot down or intercepted. And there's actually film from Jordan where a Jordan anti-ballistic missile, anti-whatever interceptor system had taken out one of these rockets. And it fell down. The carcass of this rocket fell straight down like a rock on top of a poor civilian that was walking around in a parking lot. Smack. Squash. It's amazing what bad luck that guy had. But the thing is that 180 ballistic missiles from Iran is restraint. And if they were focusing on these airfields and Mossad headquarters, it's because that is the enemy. It's not the people of Israel, it's Mossad. It's the evil Mossad. As far as the airports are concerned, they knew that any response, any attack coming from Israel would be in the form of jets flying out of airfields, carrying with them bombs, long-range weapons, this sort of thing. Namely, elite F-35s, etc. Now, this has not yet happened. Of course, Netanyahu has been trying desperately to meet with Putin because, again, lots and lots of anti-aircraft systems, sophisticated anti-aircraft system, the best that Russia has, S-300, S-400, S-350, have been sent to Iran. And of course, these will have Russian technicians manning these systems until such a time as Iran can produce their own trained technicians, unlike Ukraine. So the point is, if those Israeli F-15s, F-16s, F-35s dare to enter Iranian airspace, they're going to be going up against the most sophisticated anti-aircraft systems produced in the world for the first time. Now, Ukraine, what did they get? They got something like 16 F-16s. Everybody's been making a big deal out of it. 10 of those things are already gone. They were taken out. Russia hunts them down. As soon as they show up, they put them in a warehouse, whatever, boom. One Kinjal missile, and it's all gone. I really don't think that this is going to work out very well for Israel. But we know that this attack is imminent, just like we knew the attack coming from Iran was imminent, and we just saw it, and it was devastating, even though it was very much restrained, and even though the Iranians have made it very clear that the amount of rockets they actually have is endless compared to what they showed us. Now, what should we know? Well, as I said, Israel is trying so hard to start something, to throw us into a big, huge war, to force the United States into a suicidal World War III, ultimately nuclear event. This is what we are being forced into as we speak. So what did Israel do? They took those jets flying out of those airfields that Iran attacked, and they sent them into Syria, and they attacked a target supposedly nearby a Russian airfield installation. Not sure which one, Latakia. I can't pronounce the name. Hyman. But this was enough for Russia to basically take some very drastic moves. What did they do? Vladimir Putin went out and said, for all the Russians in Israel, all 1.5 million Russians apparently that are in Israel, for them to leave. It's time to come back home. A lot of Russians left in the 90s and immigrated to Israel. A lot of them, oligarchs, people. But Putin basically said, look, you're Russian, you're in Israel, time to leave now. That would signify that Israel's in trouble. Now, one of the realities that seems to escape Western brains is geography and acreage and the sheer size of some countries compared to other countries. Now, Ukraine, as land goes, acreage goes, hectares, is pretty big. Big chunk of land, lots of farmland, lots of land, and it's probably much larger than, say, France, England, Italy, etc. But compared to Russia, it's nothing. Tiny fraction. Much the same way that Israel is a tiny fraction compared to Iran. A lot more real estate. And you have to think of the reality of bombs is that they affect a certain radius. They destroy things within a certain radius. So it's only logical to conclude that a itty-bitty little country like Israel is much easier to destroy because the target area is going to be more inclined to be within the radius of the explosives. It's kind of like Israel attacking Gaza. Fish in a barrel. It's going to be a very similar situation for Iran. Now remember, this is only Iran we're talking about. They're not even considered a superpower. But this little Israel is going to go to war with this country that's been stockpiling enough explosives and ballistic missiles to cover every square inch of that little itty-bitty speck of land, kind of the way the Israelis did to Gaza with our weapons. So I just don't like what's coming. I have a very strong feeling that whenever it happens, and I'm sure it's going to happen soon because this is Netanyahu we're talking about, they're going to be launching that strike. Now, it's a good possibility that they won't just be attacking Iran. They'll probably want to attack other targets like deep in Lebanon. Of course, they're already in Lebanon. They already have a ground invasion started in Lebanon. But I believe they're probably going to want to lump in Syria and possibly Iraq. Any one of these countries could probably defeat Israel right now. I think Lebanon probably could defeat Israel with their rockets alone. But they know better because they don't want to get nuked. Now here's the thing, though. What target is there that in Iran that would be so important and so worth strategic in nature? What would be the most strategic target in Iran that they would attack? Because remember, whatever they do, it's going to be basically a pinprick. Because again, Iran is a large place, and the bombs only have a relatively small radius. The jets can only hit so many targets. They can only carry so many bombs. It's kind of like the guns in the movies that don't run out of bullets. No, they do run out of bombs. But so what are they going to attack? They're going to go after the Iranian nuclear facilities. And once and for all, they're going to say, we are going to go after whatever it is in Iran that they have to enrich uranium, whatever facility. Now, they also have in Iran a brand new Russian-made nuclear power reactor, civilian reactor, incapable of producing enriched uranium, but still is nuclear. Now, is that a strategic target? Well, let's see. If you're Israeli, sure. Now, what have they been doing in Ukraine? The Ukrainians have been going out of their way trying to bomb, and they are bombing right now, the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant, which just happens to be the largest nuclear power plant in the world. 6 reactors. And they consistently have been trying to bomb that thing. Consistently. The world doesn't say shit. And when they did their big invasion in Kursk region, what were they going for? They were going for the Kursk nuclear power plant, which they fortunately were unable to achieve. But the purpose of that was to cause destruction of a nuclear power plant, at the very least, nuclear extortion. Now, Israel, the genocidal entity that it is, will have no qualms about going into Iran and trying to destroy whatever nuclear facility they have with the intention of causing a crisis, an environmental catastrophe. So I don't think they're going to be the good guys in this situation. I think their intentions are to go in there and cause sort of destruction that will be genocidal in nature. And I don't think it's going to work, because I think no matter what they're flying, even if they are flying these F-35s, I really doubt F-35s are going to be able to go in there and destroy all of the advanced anti-aircraft system, which allows their other jets to come in there and fly around with impunity. I don't see it happening. I do see the very possibility that the entire Israeli Air Force, or whatever is involved, is going to get destroyed. There's a very strong possibility. Now, if indeed Israel lost 20 F-35s, what is that? $20 billion? Do we have that? No. So the United States has been demilitarized. NATO has been demilitarized. We can't win this thing in Ukraine. We've lost this thing in Ukraine. We certainly can't. We can't beat the Houthis. We can't beat Hezbollah. And we certainly can't beat Iran. We don't have the soldiers to occupy the country. It would take 1 million men to do that. So what can we do? Devastate it? Cause mass genocide? Like the Israelis want to do? Eventually get into some sort of nuclear confrontation? Obviously, that's what they want. And I think that Vladimir Putin has no illusions. I think that he knows that it's very important to make sure that any device capable of delivering such a weapon into that theater needs to be countered. And I think that Iran has been provided with the tools to do so. So whatever Netanyahu does could turn out very badly and could cause the United States to get involved if they aren't involved from the get-go, which will also end very badly for the United States should Iran decide to target some of those aircraft carriers with the hypersonic missiles they just got from Russia. And trust me, they didn't fire any of those at Tel Aviv. They fired their own domestic stuff. They're going to save the good stuff for the battle groups. Anyway, guys, so that's coming awful darn quick. And if you're not thinking in terms of days at this point, you're probably not paying attention. I know a lot of people are still thinking that they're going to go out and buy Bitcoin or whatever stupid thing. Anyway, no, it's not a good idea. To get back to some of these questions that you guys had, I guess some of it was regarding the Astral. You want to talk about the Astral, but you also want to talk about P. Diddy. You want to talk about that crap. What I think I want to remind you of is that we are a mafia. This is all a mafia. And when you look at these situations like with the P. Diddy's and what have you, and these guys starting to become exposed, ultimately, these are smaller mafias being taken out by larger mafias. Another good situation or scenario is when people say, well, look, these child traffickers were caught. Somebody uncovered a child trafficking network in such and such state, place. And the point is that, again, these are all distractions. It's kind of like Ali Carter, who's really big right now because of the P. Diddy stuff. All this stuff that you're focused on, it's not the thing you should be focused on. Uh, Somebody in the group was giving me crap. What was it? Someone from the hive. Sorry, guys, the swarm joined the group and posted a thing about this Babylon movie, which was, I believe, was supposed to be in the LA's in the 20s, and it was dealing with decadence and tunnels and, I'm sure all kinds of nastiness. And, but anyway, the thing got deleted from my group. But the point is they got all upset. But what I wanted to try to point out was that whenever we see these illustrations of these heinous activities or these glimpses into the secretive underworld of the enemy or the dark side, it's mostly for entertainment. But number one, you have to remember that it is from the enemy. There is no production whatsoever in any kind of consumer media that is allowed to be distributed that isn't corrupted and providing a confusing, distracting message. So the point is that when you see stuff like that coming out, if it looks like something close to what we're talking about, you have to assume that the enemy is trying to put this out there to recover the momentum, to recover the narrative, to hijack whatever momentum we have in one direction, trying to expose some issue, some narrative, to try to guide the narrative, to try to bring more people into focusing on one specific narrative. And then when other people try to come in and add color from the outside that hides certain aspects of it, they don't serve us. They don't serve the effort whatsoever. And again, it puts you back on your ass in an observation mode, which isn't what we want. We're in a war mode right now, not an observation mode. All right, again, let's see, what do we got here? 29 minutes. All right. Let me just try to answer some of these questions that people put out, and I'm just going to be kind of random here. Let's see, about the astral stuff. Yeah, somebody wanted to know what was going on. Again, I don't remember everything. It's my job to try not to remember anything, but I will tell you this, though. Sleep patterns and things that are going on that you do remember have a lot to do with it. And my sleep patterns for the last few days, whatever, have changed. A lot of people have been reporting that they're having deeper sleeping. And I would say that's probably very true for myself also, because I'm finding myself not waking up until, say, 5:30 in the morning, as opposed to 2:30, 3:30, 4:30, this kind of thing. So yeah, to stay asleep until 5:30 in the morning completely out, that is a significant thing. And I personally noticed at least 2 or 3 days ago that something serious was afoot. And I don't really know exactly what it was, but now I'm beginning to think that maybe the destruction of the Mossad headquarters did have a lot to do with it. Who knows what kind of evil energies have gone up in there. But at the same time, like I talked about on that interview, we are mostly at war with these, you want to call them aliens, but these entities that occupy this other density. Because, yeah, just to be clear, when we are doing our astral work, we are functioning in the 4D, the fourth density, not the third density. We have absolutely no direct effect on anything in the 3D. Everything is in the 4D. So when somebody asked, they want to know how to slaughter an Anunnaki or a Gray or a Draco, well, the answer is simple. You have to go into the 4D. And of course, when you go into the 4D, you're on their level. You're actually on their level. I got to tell you, again, I don't like to talk about this stuff, but the thing is, when you talk about Draco, a Draco can be really big, okay? Really big. Much, much larger than a human. But a human we do actually battle these things, big-ass dragon-looking Dracos. And somebody asked, how do you kill them? Well, on the other side, we kill them with swords. We kill them with every weapon that we can muster. But the thing that kills them the fastest, at least the thing that has the most power to drive them away, render them harmless, is the name of Jesus Christ. So that is the ultimate weapon. And when it comes to defeating these monsters, if you will, that is also the ultimate weapon. From the standpoint of those people out there that want to become, well, Jedi or astral warriors or this kind of thing, you could look at this from the standpoint of Eastern religion, and you'd say, well, you've got to become very Zen. And I've told a lot of people that the best way to do this is to become like a monk, because obviously service to others and meditation and increasing your spiritual energy and understanding is certainly key. Obviously, if you're trying to train to be adept in the spirit realm, then obviously this is how you're going to do it. It's not like some physical exercise that you're going to do, although staring at a candle and things like that this is actually a good exercise. But the bottom line is, if you want to be a Jedi, you have to act like a Jedi. You have to go into monk mode. Now, let's see, what else did you guys want to hear? Somebody wanted to ask about Rambo, and I didn't really know how I could get that in there, because I know a lot of people that's just kind of hard to deal with. And Rambo is so complex because Rambo is like this, eighth density entity according to Rambo, and that is in a realm that not too many people understand. I certainly don't think anybody really can understand it. I think the ones that have gotten closest to understanding, of course, are the Gnostics. And, of course, the Gnostics have their belief or their philosophy, whatever it is, based around the concept of Sophia. And this has very close parallels to Lilith. And I personally think that Rambo, of course, is somehow connected to all this stuff. And somebody was asking me, does Rambo have moments of happiness? No. I would say Rambo is probably very miserable most of the time. I know there's no real emotion involved with the warfare, the slaughtering, and the stuff that goes on in the astral. But at the same time, I do know that Rambo is a very ancient character who does have a partner who is separated from him, and he's very, very upset about that. And who knows? The partner could be Sophia. We don't know. Maybe we'll find out. But anyway, that's what I just want to say about Rambo. No, Rambo's not a happy guy. Okay, I don't think he's happy. He'd be happy when he gets back together with his partner. Okay, what else did you guys want to hear about? Let's see. Lavoy Finicum assassination. Yeah, all right. No, I don't think I want to talk about that. Let me see, January 6th. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that you guys get into with the, the tinfoil hat crowd. Rapture watching. Let's see, Astral, a couple days. Can't fathom the Phoenicians. Oh, yeah, Phoenicians. Let's see, is this a question? All right, you're asking about the ancient mines in the Great Lakes in Colorado and the southwest U.S. Are the Phoenicians the Atlanteans? Okay, first of all, if you look at any of these remnants of ancient cultures, especially in North America, and obviously if these guys went as far as Australia, certainly they probably made it to North America on either side of the continent in South America, and I think that those places probably would have been rich in mineral deposits and things that they needed to make their bronze. So yes, I think there's a good possibility that the digs that you may be finding in these areas, these ancient mines around the Great Lakes, Colorado, wherever, could be Phoenician. And even if you look at the mines that were discovered, the system of tunnels and the artifacts that were discovered in the Grand Canyon, I know a lot of this looks Egyptian, but this is probably also Phoenician. Remember, all of these cultures required the Phoenician Navy to transport them. So in other words, if Egyptians had established any sort of a foothold in the New World, so to speak, they would have had to have done so with the assistance of the Phoenician Navy. Okay? They were the only ones who had the boats that could travel those great distances. But as far as them being at the Atlanteans, no, the Atlanteans are from the previous epoch, and the world goes through these epochs. It's, obviously I am not an expert on this. I haven't been through one, but I know that a lot of times they will call this like going into the golden age. And basically it's when the universe, the cosmic, rotates in such a way that where we're living here on the Milky Way will pass through a plane of exposure from the center of the galaxy, where we will basically be getting a cosmic upload or a reprogram, or a reboot. So basically what I believe what happens is that the world, or life and reality as we know it, has these periodic reboots, and these are known as epochs. And it would appear that the only way to avoid the effect of one of these changes or these epoch transitions is to actually be in the side of the earth, the hollow earth. And this is why when they talk about Atlanteans and various different cultures becoming extinct or going underground, that's what that basically means. The same thing happened after World War II when the Nazis basically set up a new colony on the inside called New Schwabenland. So yeah, the guys on the inside have a way of saving remnants of society before one of these epoch changes. And of course, the most that we can gather from the last epoch, aside from Atlantean legends and artifacts, is the stuff that we get in Sanskrit, ancient Sanskrit, which is essentially from the Indian subcontinent and their ancient civilization, which we refer to as Mu, M-U, or what was the other name of the country? Lemuria? Yeah, Lemuria. So these were two cultures that both survived during this last epoch, and it's said that the Lemurians, or the culture of Mu, basically were responsible for destroying the Atlanteans. And from what I understand, the Atlanteans were a service to self group. They were actually advanced in consumers of gravity. They were basically gravity consumers. And this is what caused their China syndrome thing, where they supposedly their landmass sunk into the earth. It had to do with too much gravity being consumed, which is what happens when you're service to self. Whether or not the other guys were the opposite, there is some speculation that they were. When we talk about the Vimnas, which were the craft that they flew, the Lemurians, or the guys doing the Sanskrit, when they flew around, they were these big, Hindu UFOs. They called them Vimnas. Vimnas were actually powered by a human, a yogi, or some holy man on board, who would cause the entire device to levitate. And then I think what they did was they had the means of moving it around, but basically, yeah, it was a meditating yogi on board that caused this thing to levitate. But supposedly it was these Vimnas flying over to Atlantis and dropping ancient nuclear weapons that supposedly destroy Atlantis. At least this is what the ancient Sanskrit says. Everybody's got their own version. Let's see. What else did you guys want to know? I know you had a couple. I would like to hear from more of you, if possible, about the Earth's moon. Oh, okay. Tiny. How you doing? Earth's moon. All right. First of all, from what I understand, Venus was not originally in our solar system, and it came here. Basically, it was traveling, and it became basically stuck in our orbit around our sun. And with it, it brought the original moon with it. And this is how we got the moon. That's the story. Supposedly, though, at some time, who knows, a long time ago, no doubt, the moon that was originally floating around the Earth was destroyed, and it was destroyed by the Draco, I believe, because it was inhabited by the Gray. And as you may have heard this story before, but this is, again, I'm not going to tell you where I get this information, but the story goes, from what I understand, is that the Gray, the Anunnaki, and the Draco were the three bad guys that basically took over. They're like the three mobsters that basically controlled everything and dominated and kicked out everybody else, all 8,000 other species. And and then they turned on each other. They were at war with each other, and the Draco destroyed the moon. And what else? The Anunnaki were involved, of course, but what happened was that a treaty was signed between these three entities and the Creator. Apparently, the Creator, and I would suspect that the Holy Spirit was involved in this. Who knows? Maybe the Ascended Masters. But either way, the Creator granted a treaty to these three entities to cease the fighting, and basically left us with the last 25 million years of hell on Earth that we've been experiencing. Well, because the moon was destroyed, the Greys were provided with a new moon, and this particular moon is, well, let's just say it's a fabrication. It's not natural. It's artificial. It's made to look real, but at the same time, it's also constructed in such a way that it could not be destroyed via nuclear weapons like were being used by the Anunnaki or the Draco when they destroy it the first time. And the other big thing about the moon that you should know is that the whole position of it, the specific distance away from the Earth, the fact that it doesn't turn and faces in one direction the whole time, and the fact that it actually has a diameter and a distance from the Earth to allow it to have a perfect eclipse. This is unnatural, people. An eclipse is unnatural. It's mathematically impossible. They did this on purpose just to show us that it's not real. An eclipse requires an alignment that is essentially theoretically, mathematically impossible. So for us to be getting them on a regular basis like this is a big clue that the thing's not real. Now, the Anunnaki, of course, they were kind of jealous. They liked the moon. They thought that the moon was really cool. So they negotiated for a planet of their own, which we know as Nibiru. So they had a planet created for them, which is probably also hollow. But we were lucky because God basically put Nibiru on this ridiculous elliptical orbit so that it only comes around Earth every, 10, 20,000 years, something like that. I mentioned that on the show the other day. I was saying that Marduk was in town the last time they passed by. Anyway, so that's one of the benefits. But yeah, the moon, that's the deal with the moon. It's definitely artificial, and it's probably hollow. And I remember that we actually sent a spaceship up there and crashed it into the moon, and the thing rang like a bell. So, it's one of those things. Did we go to the moon? Yeah, we went to the moon. Did they fake a whole bunch of stuff in Hollywood? Yeah, of course they did. Why did they do that? Well, first of all, because they couldn't show you the real pictures that they took from the moon. The Russians went to the moon too. But the thing is when the Russians went to the moon, bad things happened. Very bad things happened. And they were warned and they were told, don't come here. Do not come here. And they said, okay. So they did it. But when we say that we went to the moon, who do you think really did it? It was the Nazis. Who do you think runs this country? Anyway, let's see. What else? What else did you want to hear about? Okay. I remember seeing a telemap of the U.S. Okay, this is JR. Nah. Not gonna. Oh, well, looks like that's about it. Couples Reiki. Wait a minute. Jessica wanted to hear about couples Reiki. Oh, that's right. Stress relief and chi flow and all that. I think we covered that already. Let's see. Yep. Let's see. Yeah. Bless our food. Yeah, let's see. You want to know about blessing our food. Uh, and you want to know a little bit about Jesus. All right. Well, first of all, blessing your food, of course, your food is mostly water. And water is a chi superconductor. So bad chi is held in the water, just like it's held in a crystal. You know, crystal can absorb this stuff. Your food can absorb this stuff. Water can absorb this stuff. It's very important that you bless it and you have love with your food, and this is what cleans it out. And it's like I tell people when you're cooking, stir clockwise. This will help achieve the realignment that you need of the molecules and the hydrogen bonds of the water. The water has bonding, has a way of bonding that actually gives the water a lattice, like a living, functioning organism. I'm going to throw this out here real quick, only because I've kind of learned. But a while back, we were doing some Jedi stuff. I've got a couple guys, and we were doing some heavy duty missions, and I was working with some people who were wide awake astral guys, a man and a woman. One of them was a colonel. You know, I don't talk to the colonel too much anymore, and another woman. And we were doing some heavy duty stuff, and they got into these things where they were dealing with crystals, intelligent crystals. And when they started talking to intelligent crystals, I thought, oh, come on. I couldn't handle that, because to me, that's not in the image of God. That's not human. But I'm learning now, I'm understanding closer that a crystal is a life form. It's definitely a life form. And what makes it a life form? The fact that it has those molecular bonds, that crystalline structure, that is the nature of God. That is probably the closest thing that you can get to putting into a form that you could call life. One of the guys was asking me a question. You know, he's sometimes the simplest things can come out to be some really deep questions, but he was asking me about the nature of the densities. And when I talk about the first level of density, I talk about rocks. Usually I say rocks being inanimate objects. And this is the lowest level of density. Now, when we say inanimate objects, we should also consider that everything is made of atoms, and molecules, and this sort of thing. And there's movement. There's constant movement. There is never a stoppage. You cannot cause electrons or atoms to stop vibrating, to stop moving. It's impossible. So in a way, you could consider this a form of life. But his question was, what is water? Is water first density, or is it second density? And that's kind of a fascinating question. You know, living water, is water a first density or a second density entity? It's almost like asking, is a crystal a first density or a second density entity? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to suggest that a crystal and water truly is a first density entity. But what's different here is that the amount of movement, a rock, an inanimate object, a natural rock, a piece of steel, something of this nature, yes, the atoms are still vibrating. It's somewhat standard. What's the difference with a fluid? There's still atoms, there's still molecules, there's still bonding. A fluid can be in different states of matter. It could be frozen, it could be gas. It's still the same thing. But it's the particles. So I would say that a first density entity starts with the particles. So in a way, you could say that all life forms, at least any life forms that contain any physicality at all, any matter, still contain first density entities. They're combinations of first density entities, symbiotic relationships that form bodies. Kind of fascinating stuff. But yeah, I suppose that, sure, water and a crystal can hold information. I suppose ultimately a rock can hold information if it is in a crystalline form. Why not? Why not? But anyway, that's why we bless our food. Okay? Who is Jesus? Come on, let's not do modern culture and apathy, ignorance, the Satanism. Okay, Jessica, let's see. People jumping and feeling abandoned by God, therefore deciding it doesn't exist. Oh, poor people. Blaming God and Jesus for negative things to happen. Oh, God, I hope that doesn't happen. That's very, I don't even really want to go there. Let's see. Revelations. Here's JR. He posted Revelations, and he's talking about the mountain and rock shall fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, the wrath of the Lamb. Yeah, this is definitely the underground thing. This is definitely hiding from the face of God. When we hide from the face of God, what are we doing? We're hiding from the sun, that's for sure. That is the grace. Let's see what else. Okay. Oh, Rob, let's see. What do you want to talk about? COVID here? COVID detox. Talking about dating. All right. Just for the people that haven't heard this before, yes, there's only 3 things in the world which will stop the transfer and the growth and transmitting of spike proteins, and that is THC, CBD, and lysine. Lysine, of course, you should be taking every day anyway, at least 1,000 milligrams a day if you're an adult, maybe only 500 milligrams if you're a child or for your pet. But yeah, that's the number one thing to do. And if you have a partner who is vaccinated, they need to be on the lysine. That's all I can say. I wanted to talk a little bit about transmitting of biological material between a man and a woman. But there was a story I read here about when a woman is sick, that she tends to have large amounts of cells that are detected that appear to not be of that woman, alien cells, if you will. The reality, it turns out, is that when a woman is a mother and she has children, there are cells from the baby left over in the body that basically will protect that woman and work at destroying any kind of illness that is attacking the body. And they find out that this happens even if the woman doesn't go full term with the baby. Even if the baby is aborted, there are still cells of that baby alive, working in the mother, trying to keep that mother alive. And the same is also true for children. The children of a mother will also have cells of the mother in their body working to combat illness, much like antibodies trying to keep those people alive. But it's also true that when a man is with a woman, that he leaves biological material in that woman that is always there. Always there. No matter how many men are with that woman, there will be biological material for every one of those women, and it will have an effect on the body. So it's easy to see when you consider this, how an mRNA injection with, what do they call those things again? Bacteriophage technology or therapy, how that's going to screw up that process. And ultimately, I think that the key to that is sex. And I think that the creation of babies and the transfer of human biological material, that's mostly through sex and procreation. So if anything, to answer a lot of questions for people here, especially like Jessica, when you're asking me about how do you grow spiritually, especially if you have a partner that is not on the same path as you, that may be well-intentioned but is not trying to learn the things you're learning, know the things you know. It's kind of similar to having sex with a person that's been vaccinated. There's steps that you can take, but ultimately you have to realize that this is you. Okay? This is your growth and your work, and you can benefit from these other people, just like you can still increase your chi flow with a partner that's vaccinated. You can increase your chi flow with a partner that's, say, not part of the movement. What else can I tell you tonight? That's really about all I want to talk about. HARP. Okay, I'm going to leave you with this. This is kind of important. Looks like we're running out of time anyway. People were bitching about what's going on in the, North Carolina and the weapons, the weather, and the bad weather, and they're calling it HARP. And they're saying, if only there's something we could do to counteract HARP. There is exactly something that we can do. Every human has the ability to produce magnetic waves. And these magnetic waves are powerful enough to counteract stuff like this, but they only happens if we get together, we work together, we train ourselves, and we train to work together, because it's only a finite number of humans. I think it's something like 40,000 humans that can get together, and if they all practice and know what they're doing, they've become skillful, they can actually become more powerful than an atomic bomb, the most powerful bomb that has ever exploded. Let's see, what do we call that? Magnetic induction? I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But anyway, the point is that we emit this magnetic induction, and this is how we counteract HARP. So yeah, we can move hurricanes, we can stop these things, we can change the weather, we can cause paradise on Earth, we can do all of these things because we are magic. But we have to want it, and we have to rise above the mundane bullshit that the Earth provides us and realize that we really are special. We really are magic. All right, guys, crazy show. I'll try to come up with a title for you. But anyway, I do want to say thank you, because it looks like a whole bunch of you are listening tonight. New people, no doubt. And you're still here for a whole hour so far. Okay. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And stick with the group. And yes, I don't really allow much stuff to be posted. And if I'm in a bad mood, it's even worse. And of course, I miss Twitter, but that's life. But I'll tell you guys, Israel right now, bad news. So enjoy every day and work hard every day and have no fear, and know that the work that you do has value and that it's actually going to help us achieve our mission. All right. So get passionate about this stuff, and thank you for being part of it. And if you want to help me out economically, not too many people do. Serious, not too many people do anymore. But if you do, you got to send something to my PayPal. It's Stephen Kelly 714@yahoo.com. It's STEVENKELLEY 714@yahoo.com. And you got to say friend or family, because that's the only way I can take money. All right. I do appreciate it. If you want to email me for a copy of the book or whatever, please, that's law17gun@AOL.com. Okay. I look forward to seeing you guys in the group. Thank you for your patience. Also, please subscribe to my Rumble, my new Rumble. Just click on that button, subscribe. Okay, I really appreciate it. All right. And with that, I'll see you guys soon, after I cue up my music, right? Anyway, I'm just going to remind you guys that it is still Thursday night. This is still the Stephen D. Kelly Show. And it's still the 10th. I'm sorry, not the 10th, but the 3rd. We're going to have our big fun here in Vegas pretty soon, and I'm going to do my best to avoid the bad guys, but that's just the way it is. All right. Oh, look at all these people just showed up just now. Come on, guys. You're a little bit late, but all right. I'm going to play a recording. There's going to be some music playing, and then you're going to get to hear the show over again. All right. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, my name is Stephen D. Kelly. This is the Stephen D. Kelly Show, and we are Truth Cat Radio, www.truthcatradio.com. I'll see you in the Telegram group, okay? Telegram, Occupied Gay / Stephen D. Kelly. All right. Good night. God bless. Adios. Goodbye.